Welcome back to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS. Now it's real time, sponsored by the Mill Casino.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. And he just said Mill Casino. Maybe we should go there for spring break. We're trying to figure that out. Chris Vertopoulos, it's great to see you, man.
How are you? Good to see you too.
It's always great when we can get you here on a Saturday. That you're one of the few guides that doesn't really go after chasing fish on weekends. I know sometimes that you do, but to get you in here on a Saturday, we truly do appreciate you taking the time for that.
I mentioned a fine thing to do on a Saturday.
We all love that. And one of our highest requested interviews, by the way, Winter Steelhead 2025. Now, I spend my time significantly different area than you. For yourself, though, how's it been?
It's been lackluster. Right. We find some fish some days, and you just got to work it hard, and every now and then you run into a pot of fish, and you got to kind of plan your float accordingly so that if you know some fish came in on the tide on the lower river, you want to be down on that lower river that next day.
Sure, makes sense.
And just kind of adjust your float plans to where you hear of the fish being, or if you got fish the day before. Yeah. Fish accordingly, because there's little groups of fish and there's lots of space in between.
Yeah, and it seems like that's pretty much everywhere you go. You get that shot, maybe one fish in a hole, maybe two if you're lucky. At least for us, it's been, if you get a fish in a spot, generally that's it. I mean, we're not running across those numbers in each spot. I mean, although we have, one here, one there, and maybe two, but it's just been kind of weird on that note. You fish the coast anywhere, up and down the coast. You mentioned the tides. For folks that spend their time there, I know that those tides are huge, right? I mean, they're going to let you know if it's, optimal, or maybe the time to get down there. What kind of tides are you looking at? If somebody's going to look at their phone and go, okay, I got a big tide that's coming in at 1 o'clock in the morning, is that a day that you might go, okay, I should probably go out and get on that lower river, or do you just kind of look at something different?
Well, I think it's fishing the tides is only beneficial if you're fishing the lower sections of the river that are, just a few miles off of tide water. Generally, if you've got a high tide at, say, 9 o'clock in the morning on the lower Wilson, for instance, it's a pretty good idea to plan that you're going to be on that lower section of the drift by about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, because those fish come up pretty quick, right off the tide, real fresh, with sea lice all over them.
They fly up through there.
Yeah. Generally plan on being a couple hours after a good-sized high tide.
Interesting. I don't get to play that game. I don't fish the coast all that often, but it's certainly great info. This past week, since today being Saturday, yes, we are live if you're unaware, how was this past week for you?
It was disappointing, mostly because we had that high water, and we came off of high water, and our timing's right. We had some good warmer weather, and there was a few fish around, but it wasn't, what everybody expected. Right. And, we're getting some chances every day, and we're picking up a fish or two or three here and there, but there's been some tough days, some really tough days.
Have you been throwing everything at them?
Yeah, I've been throwing everything at them. I've been throwing worms, and I've had actually some of the best success with worms.
I'd love to hear that.
And beads and plugs, and when we had the super cold, frozen temperatures the week before, plugs were working good for me, mag lips and tadpoles.
Nice.
And in that low water.
You brought in some of your tadpoles to show. Those are certainly great plugs to use. And those conditions are pretty darn good for low clear water.
Especially as the water drops,
hopefully those things will start to expand. Now, we are 8th of March. I know that you're going to be guiding for spring Chinook this month at some point. When are you going to call it quits on chasing steelhead? And for those that might be continuing through this month to chase them, any advice that you might be able to share for chasing these late winter steelhead?
Well, keep at it. There are fish around, and if you work at it, you'll find some here and there, and you got to kind of take every steelhead year with a grain of salt.
Sure.
Some years are better than others, and if you're a diehard steelhead fisherman, you got to go anyway. And it's more.
I know how that is.
Yeah, it's more about the being out there, the scenery, all the expectations, the camaraderie, than it is about just catching fish.
Right.
So
I know there's a lot of people out there right now that are looking at the TV going, "No, it's about catching fish." And listen, I get it, okay? But it is something nice to say. I had my daughter out yesterday, and she was just amazed at she gets out a lot, throughout the year, not so much in the wintertime, but she was just loving the fact, oh, there's a bald eagle, there's the geese. Wow, look at the waterfall coming in. So those are things that you just don't get to see if you don't go because you're
And we take
discouraged.
for granted.
And we take it for granted because we're out there all the time, right?
Yeah.
So it was nice to see that perspective. When are you going to start chasing springers this
My last steelhead trip is the 22nd, I think, and then I start springer fishing, I think, on the 26th.
And you're going to start in the Columbia or the Willamette?
On the Columbia.
On the Columbia.
Yeah, I'm going to fish the Columbia through its closure, which is after the 6th.
Sure, sure.
We may get an extension like we did last year or the year before if the catch rate is low. So, there's that option too. But after it closes, I'll be in the Willamette after that.
Okay, gotcha. So
and the channel.
As it stands now, barring any sort of extension, it's the 6th of April when it closes,
Correct.
I believe, on the Columbia, below Bonneville in particular. In the vast expanse of the Columbia, are you going to be midstream, down low?
I'm going to be down low. For years, I fished kind of that lower section.
Gotcha.
And like it down there and you get away from some of the crowd and you get the biters before they get caught upriver.
Sure, that makes sense.
And I mean, there can be some good fishing all the way up to, the deadline at Bonneville too. But especially those last days of the season that it's open.
Right.
But I just prefer that lower river because I know it real well down there.
Yeah, it's
and I like it down there. It's pretty too.
Yeah, very cool. And you made a good point. Getting those fish before they actually get a chance to, if somebody put a bait in front of them. You also have a crossover. You got Willamette and Columbia fish that are down there. So you got a little bit of something else working for you.
You get that working for you too. And the smelt's going to be kind of an interesting thing. We're going to have to deal with the smelt again this year because they came in late, probably because we had those cold temperatures there for so long.
Yeah.
And that slows the whole progression of the smelt rundown. And so we're going to have some stuffed salmon down there
God, that's annoying.
Typically aren't the best biters.
Right.
And
because they're full.
Because they're full. Yeah.
People, they don't eat when they get into fresh water, though. I love that old adage. All right, well, we're going to cut to a break. When we come back, it's going to be our Chevy Silverado Tech Tip of the Week, and it's super simple because he brought in the new Yakima bait cut plug. It's also part of the deal over there at Fishman's. We'll talk about that. But we're going to see how he likes to use these, and my number one question, is he going to start using them in this early part of the spring Chinook season? We'll be back with that. And he's got a very interesting rigging that we have not seen yet here on the air. So we'll have that when we come back from the spring.
Outdoor GPS is brought to you by Chevy Silverado and the impressive Turbo Max engine. Flex your muscle with the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever. Official truck of Outdoor GPS.